action.
Try to see the bigger picture, so much bigger than you and I alone. If we all just make some changes, we could be the ones to turn it all around. It's time to rise up, get our act together. This is so much more than changes in the weather. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. The time is now. Oh, 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 oh. The time is now. Oh, oh, oh. Best thing to do is stop deforestation, a major cause of habitat obliteration. Trees make oxygen that we need to breathe. No more trees means no more me. Time to stop burning those fossil fuels if we don't want to be fossils too. Burning fuel causes air pollution. It's time to embrace a greener solution.
Large-scale farming plays a big part. Billions of cows means a whole lot of farts.
We need change, it has to be drastic. Cut the production of single-use plastic. 3 million years human evolution. 200 years industrial pollution. One last chance for a green revolution. It's time to rise up, get our act together. This is so much more than changes in the weather. We say no, no, no more wasting time. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. It's time to rise up, get our act together. This is so much more than changes in the weather. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. The time is now. Oh, oh, oh. The time is now. Oh, oh, oh. The time is now. Oh, oh, oh. The time is now. Now!
Yes, you are in the right place. Do not adjust your laptops. That was the climate change song. The time is now from One More Song, and I can't think of a more uplifting way to start a conference on climate change than that. In case you're not familiar with them, One More Song are an organisation who support children's mental health through their music. And Harper Macleod are going to be making a sizable donation to the charity Child Mental Health Support Scotland, place to be, to help carry on that really important work. Did you catch the chorus there? It's time to wise up, get our act together. It's so much more than changes in the weather. No more wasting time. The time is now. I guess at a conference about renewable energy and climate change, we are preaching to the converted about the climate crisis. But that was a timely and really tuneful reminder of why we are all here. Ladies and gentlemen, a very, very warm welcome to you all to this virtual SHREC Conference 2021. My name is Nicky Marr and I am alone here in the studio in Inverness, but by the wonders of Zoom, something which hardly any of us had even heard of this time last year, you are all at home, at your homes across Scotland, the Highlands and Islands, some of you south of the border, and lots of you, I'm delighted to say, are coming to us from right across Europe. And my co-host for today's conference, the head of energy and natural resources for Harper Macleod, is David Bone, and he is coming to us live from his home in Peebles in the Borders. Good afternoon, David. Did you enjoy our musical start to conference today?
Good afternoon, Nicky, and afternoon, everybody, and welcome to SHREC 12. It's great to be here, and yes, I did. I was just thinking while I was listening to the song that since we'll be ending this afternoon hearing the views of young people in climate change, how appropriate it was to also start with a call for action from even younger ones, given that a lot of what this conference is about today is what we can do for the next generation.
And of course, the next generation is going to be impacted an awful lot more than, without being rude, than you and I are, David. Are those kids in that song right? Is now the right time to be having this conference on climate change?
Absolutely, Nicky. This is such an exciting time for the renewables industry in general and Scotland in particular, with the need to tackle climate change now at the forefront of the global stage, and with Glasgow having an opportunity to host what will be a really critical global summit in November.
Of course, COP26 is just around the corner, and will be so much in the news about that as we run up to it. We have got an absolutely packed programme to take us through between now and about 4 o'clock. And David, you're chairing 2 of the panel sessions. Can I ask you, though, of everything that we've got to look forward to, what are you most looking forward to today?
Well, that's not fair. I'm looking forward to everything, Nicky. We have a really interesting and varied programme. We'll be hearing from the Scottish Government about their plans in the lead up to COP26. We'll be hearing about the changes that are taking place and are indeed being demanded in our attitudes to decarbonisation from campaigning groups and from young people. We'll be hearing from developers and investors about what they need to develop and finance the projects that will move us towards our goals. We'll be listening to discussion on how we can sustainably use Scotland's natural resources. And we'll also be hearing from some other countries' experiences. So it really should be a fascinating day.
It should indeed. I'm quite surprised when I look at the clock and I look at the programme about how we're going to manage to fit it all in. I don't know how we're going to manage all that, but we will certainly do that. There is loads to look forward to and loads to learn from. Now, last April's conference, SHREC 11, took place virtually because we were right at the very start of this global pandemic. And here we are again, almost exactly a year on, still virtual, but that's perhaps not such a bad thing for this conference today.
No, obviously we'll miss our annual gathering of the SHREC community in Inverness, Nicky, but every cloud has a silver lining, and holding our conference online this year, first of all, allows far more people to join us, and second, has allowed us to attract speakers based in Amsterdam, Munich and Oslo, in addition to those from all parts of Scotland and also from down south. So it gives the conference a truly international feel at a time when attracting development and investment in Scotland is vitally important.
It certainly does. And of course, it'll be really, really interesting to hear some of those different viewpoints from right across Europe. And of course, we are all just a wee bit better at using the technology than we were this time last year. So fingers crossed, everything will go well and we will get all the right speakers in all the right places at all the right times throughout today. Now, we may not be here together in person, but we are certainly here live, and we really do want and invite your interaction. At certain points throughout the day, we've set aside quite a considerable chunk of time for questions and answers. And we would love to get your input. In fact, I would probably go so far as to say we need your input, because that time will not fill itself. And if we don't have your comments and your suggestions, your ideas and your questions, your observations too, then either David or I might be forced to burst into song, and you really don't want to see that at all. So as questions occur to you throughout the day, please just get in touch. There's a little Q&A box on the webinar screen that you should be watching on, and David and I will pick them up as we go throughout the day. I've got an iPad right here in front of me. David's got his laptop too, so we will see your questions as they come in. We will put them to the panels of speakers. I'd like to ask you though, when you are getting in touch, please give us your name, and if you are from an organisation too, then let us know where you're from and we can attribute your question accordingly. Now, of course, there might be some questions that we can't answer, either because of time constraints or because someone needs to go off and actually do some research to get the proper answer and to give that the respect it needs. So we will go through as many as we can. Any that we can't pick up or any that we don't get to, then Harper and Macleod are going to collate them all, get the answers together and put them in a document which will be circulated to delegates after the conference. So hopefully no one will miss out. We've planned a lunch break for 1:30, when there's half an hour when you can either just completely switch off and go outside. It's a beautiful day here in Inverness, perfect renewable energy weather, I think. Certainly good solar power and good wind power for drying my washing today. So if you want to get a break, get outside, then feel free to do so. But if you fancy doing some informal networking with some other conference delegates, then that would be really, really welcome. It would be great to have you in those meetings. You should all have received an email just very recently, this morning perhaps, with all the information about how that works, but I will give you a reminder of that just before we break for lunch. Once we come back at 2 o'clock, there is another hour and a half of discussions and talks and panel chats, and then we will break at around about 3:30, and then the networking will continue until 4 o'clock. I think that's probably all of the housekeeping that we need to cover off before we really start this conference proper. So I will hand over to you, if I may now, David, for you to introduce our keynote speaker.